Hi all, I'm Wenzheng Zeng from the National University of Singapore. In this work, we propose SlideTailor, personalized presentation slide generation for scientific papers. The task we focus on is called automatic paper-to-slide generation, which is of growing importance. We argue that presentation design is inherently subjective. Users have different preferences in terms of narrative structure, emphasis, conciseness, aesthetic choices, and so on. However, existing methods typically treat slide generation as a direct document-to-slides process, or with limited user preference consideration. Consequently, under-specified or one-size-fits-all generation frameworks often yield outputs that do not align well with individual preferences. So in this work, we ask, can we better model such diverse user preferences for personalized paper-to-slides generation? Our contributions are threefold. First, we introduce and properly define a new task that conditions paper-to-slide generation on user-specified preferences. Second, we propose a human behavior-inspired agentic framework, SlideTailor, that progressively generates editable slides in a user-aligned manner. Third, we construct a benchmark dataset that captures diverse user preferences with carefully designed interpretable metrics for robust evaluation. In our task formulation, we distinguish user preferences in two dimensions. First, content preferences, which govern how a paper is transformed into slides, shaping the narrative's flow, level of detail, selective emphasis across sections, and so on. Second, aesthetic preferences, which captures the user's visual and stylistic inclinations, including slide layout, background themes, color patterns, typography, and decorative elements such as icons or logos. We then naturally ask, what forms of user input can both effectively capture expressive user preferences and align well with real-world presentation creation workflow? A straightforward option is to let users explicitly articulate their preferences through detailed textual instructions. However, this approach is burdensome for users and fails to fully express rich and abstract preferences. Instead, we propose a more user-friendly way. The system takes a paper slide sample pair that captures the content preferences and a .pptx slide template that captures aesthetic preferences such as layout, visual theme, logo, and so on. These inputs are natural for users to provide and align with common practices, while individuals often reference previous slide decks and reuse institutional or personal templates. Moreover, the two preference types are relatively orthogonal, enabling modular flexibility. In principle, any aesthetic template can be paired with any content preference profile. In practice, we assume that users have self-consistent preferences, while the model is designed to adaptively integrate different preference sources to achieve harmonious slide generation. So the overall goal of our task is to follow the subjective preferences embodied by the two types of conditional user inputs, while also satisfying the general quality requirements of slide production. Such a goal poses two key challenges to the system. The first is learning from rich but implicit, unlabeled preference signals. Specifically, although the user-provided paper slide sample pair and template file provide rich preference signals, they are implicit and entangled without structured labels. Thus, the system must distill diverse content and aesthetic preferences without fine-grained supervision, making preference extraction inherently ambiguous and under constraint. The second challenge is multi-aspect alignment, which means that the model is expected to exhibit adaptive capability to achieve preference harmony across different preference sources during slide generation. To address these two challenges, we introduce a human behavior-inspired agentic framework, SlideTailor, that progressively models and applies user preferences in slide generation. As illustrated in the figure, the overall process involves three stages. First, implicit preference distillation from unlabeled user inputs. Second, preference-guided slide planning from the distilled profile. And third, slide realization via appropriate template editing. This modular design mirrors slide preparation by humans, starting from internalizing personal style, then organizing content, and finally creating slides for presentation. We model content preference as a latent mapping between the paper and the slides in the paper-slide sample pair. We leverage a large language model to infer how the content is selected, emphasized, omitted, or reordered beyond surface form, and output a structured content preference profile. In parallel, we distill layout-related aesthetic preferences from the provided template file. We employ a visual language model to infer the functional rules of both slide-level components and element-level components within each slide. In addition, we incorporate fine-grained metadata directly parsed from the raw.pptx file. The resulting structured schema serves as a layout grounding mechanism that facilitates subsequent template understanding and selection. After preference distillation, a paper reorganizer agent summarizes and reorganizes the input paper guided by content preference. Then a slide outline designer, powered by a large language model, predicts a slide-wise generation plan. Here we introduce a chain-of-speech mechanism that generates speech strips during slide-wise planning, which not only improves coherence and clarity, but also facilitates downstream applications, such as video presentation. Once the content outline is finalized, the system selects an appropriate layout for each slide by matching it with one slide from the user-provided template based on the slide-level aesthetic schema. This per-slide matching aligns with real-world authoring practices and enhances coherence between slide content and visual presentation. Finally, the system realizes each slide by editing the selected template layout using the outline and the corresponding speech draft. This editing-based strategy preserves the original layout and visual theme while producing fully editable slides that are suitable for further user refinements or downstream usage. To facilitate research on the proposed new task, we construct a dedicated benchmark dataset, PSP. Our dataset consists of 200 papers from multiple conferences and journals, 50 paper slides pairs, and 10 academic slide templates, yielding 100,000 unique input combinations. Our proposed evaluation metrics include 4 preference-based metrics and 2 preference-independent metrics. Experimental results demonstrate that our SlideTailor consistently outperforms ChatGPT and prior approaches, including Auto-Present and PPT Agent, across both preference-based and preference-independent metrics, under both automatic and human evaluations. We also carried out an ablation study. We observed that removing content preference notably decreases performance across all preference-based metrics. This not only validates the core hypothesis that modeling user-specific preferences is essential for personalization, but also demonstrates the effectiveness of our preference distillation module in capturing and leveraging such implicit user signals. In addition, disabling the chain-of-speech module results in a clear drop in overall performance, especially in general content quality. This underscores the importance of aligning slide planning with anticipated narration to improve clarity and informativeness. For more details, please refer to our paper and project page. Thank you for watching.